Welcome to Hypnosis Today, the nation's first web TV talk show that explores the fascinating world of hypnotherapy. My name is Lisa Mackenberg, and I'll be your host, covering a wide variety of subjects to help you understand the power of the subconscious mind and how hypnosis is being used today to help people achieve happiness, success, and prosperity. It is my pleasure to introduce my brand new guests. My first guest is Dr. Nancy Irwin. Now, Dr. Nancy has her doctorate in psychology. She also is an honors grad of HMI College of Hypnotherapy. She also is the author of one of my favorite books. Won't tell you my age after I read this title. It's called U-Turn, Changing Direction in Midlife, 40 Stories from People Over 40. And she has with her today her very special guest, Shazad, who came to visit Dr. Nancy for smoking cessation. Please help me welcome my guests.
Thank you.
Shazad, I wanted to start
Yes.
with you. How long had you been a smoker?
Almost 30 years.
When did you start?
Very young.
How old were you?
She was 2.
Yes, exactly. I was 2. Don't really remember. Teenager.
Do you remember why you started?
Peer pressure.
Yeah. You know, it is said that quitting smoking is easy. I've done it 1,000 times. Can you tell me, had you ever tried smoking before in the 30 years before you met Dr. Nancy?
Yes, many, many times.
What did you try?
Everything. Patches, pills,
Mm-hmm.
Chantix. Friends helping me out, not smoking with me, not smoking in front of me, but that was it. I could not quit smoking.
What was the longest you had gone with not having a cigarette since you started?
24 hours, maybe.
Was it a hard 24 hours?
Oh, yes.
But
Yeah.
you know, I'll bet that in those 30 years you had heard about hypnosis for stop smoking. How come you didn't pursue it?
Sometimes, I don't know, you just don't think that it would really work.
Yes.
And it was the best thing that ever happened to me, I have to tell you.
Did you ever call another hypnotherapist before you met
Yes, I
Nancy?
did.
Tell us about that experience.
I called this gentleman, and he said that he had a waiting list for 6 months, and then 6 or 12 sessions, something like that. And then he said, I'm not going to guarantee it either. So he called me back in 6 months, and I said, well, thank you very much. I went to Dr. Irwin for 1 session, 2 hours, and that was it. And it's been 5 years now.
Now, how did you find Dr. Irwin?
Fate.
Hey, you're speaking to a room full of hypnotherapists. You're preaching to the choirs. We believe in synchronicity here. Tell me about the synchronicity.
Well, I was at a restaurant, and I went outside to have a cigarette, and the gentleman who was serving us, I said, oh, this is a bad habit, I have to move over there to smoke. And he said, oh, I know, I've done it. And I said, do you smoke? He said, no, not anymore. And I said, well, what did you do? He said hypnosis. And I said, oh, yeah, I heard, it doesn't work. How many sessions did you go? 12 sessions or something? He said, no, 1. I said, 1? Give me the number right now. And the next day I called her, and here I am, luckiest person.
You said something very interesting that I need to ask you about. You said 1 session, 2 hours. How do you stop smoking in 1 session, 2 hours?
Well, it really shouldn't take more than 2 hours, Lisa, because we're all born a non-smoker.
This is true.
We simply return you to that natural default setting. Your body, your brain already remembers that template. We just reclaim that power. So it's a powerful 2-hour session. They bring their leftover cigarettes and ashtrays with them, and 2 hours later, they're smoke-free.
What do you do in the first hour?
The first hour is all cognitive. I take a great deal of time explaining scientifically how hypnosis works so they know what I'm doing to them, allay any fears, any of the old wives' tales that they may have heard about hypnosis. I get a lot of information about their history, their particular triggers, their fears, their reasons for quitting. So I use all of this information to incorporate in the second hour, in which they're in trance for the full hour.
Well, I want to get back to that because I've never heard of such a thing, and I want to ask you about 1 billion questions about being in hypnosis for an hour. But first, Shazad, what was your triggers? What was your favorite cigarette of the day?
In the morning with the coffee.
Well, I'm looking at your body language. It's like you're going into that alpha state already. And then Dr. Irwin said about allaying fears or misconceptions about hypnosis. What did you think hypnosis was before you heard what she had to tell you?
I thought it would work, but you never know until you really try it.
That's
you know?
true. Yes.
So
now we know what hypnosis is and what it isn't. We have a history, we have the triggers, but now we get to the second hour.
The best part.
Yeah. Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
What would you do with a smoking client in 1 hour in a trance state?
Typically, because every patient is different and I individualize it and I work intuitively, but typically I do a long, deep, progressive relaxation, and then I walk them down the staircase and I have them meet their ideal self, who of course is going to be committed to health and fitness and staying smoke-free. As that ideal self, I then walk them through a whole day, having that first cup of coffee in the morning, enjoying it more smoke-free, as indeed they will, because when you're off cigarettes, your senses return to 100%. They're damped down when you have 4,000 toxins running through your body. So coffee absolutely will taste and smell and feel much better when you're smoke-free. I move through the whole day like that, so they see themselves driving as a non-smoker, taking a break from work, walking around the block, shooting hoops, doing anything else except that old habit. So we move through the whole day. I use some NLP techniques typically.
Neuro-linguistic programming.
Yeah.
What type of techniques in NLP would you use?
Fast phobia cure.
Tell me what you mean.
Very quickly. Take them into the movie theater and they see themselves smoking as they used to, and then we scramble that, so it scrambles the encoding in the brain so they can't access that old feeling, seeing themselves smoking. So we deliberately stun them so they can't access the old program. And then we keep planning the new ones. I also use a squeeze technique, which anchors in, very simple, where, because the great cosmic joke we smokers don't get, I'm an ex-smoker myself, 15 years, thank you. Wow. So the great cosmic joke we smokers don't get is all we're truly after when we suck in that first drag of a cigarette with that is a deep cleansing breath. So now you have the power of breathing without the toxins. So I simply have them squeeze their fingers, breathe that fresh air, and see a serene image in their mind's eye. And the instant they release that, they dissolve the old negative and the urge within their body, wherever it's been stored.
Shazad, tell me, when do you remember, I know it was 5 years ago, the first time that you realized that really all you wanted was a deep breath? And when did you use your anchor to get what you needed without the smoking?
it was the easiest thing I've ever done, honestly. I walked out of the office and I thought I was I didn't know I was under, first of all. I thought, I was thinking to myself, going through what I have to do for the day, and I said, well, you know, I'm gonna get out of the office and have a cigarette. And I walked out and I didn't have the urge, and that's it, 5 years now. Wow. It was so easy, I cannot tell you.
But what about the cravings, and what about the sleepless nights, and what about the sugar cravings, and what about the shaking, and what about the crying, and tell me.
I was expecting it. I mean, it was there. I said, okay, I'm going to be crying, agitated, angry, not sleeping, craving. None of them. I really, truly did not have any of them. It was the easiest thing. I thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Really.
You know, it's funny when I do this, Nancy, and maybe you can help me out here. I usually use, in the cognitive part of the session, cognitive behavioral therapy.
Absolutely.
Change the way that you think, and you'll change the way you feel. I didn't hear you talk about that at all in the cognitive part of the session.
Certainly.
Is that come up any place in the 2 hours?
Yes. I use my special sauce, as I say, is a rational emotive behavioral technique.
Which is a form of cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yes, indeed.
And you use it in trance state?
Yes.
Teach me.
And she really took it. That's why she doesn't even remember it. It's simply the rational emotive behavioral approach simply challenges the underlying irrational beliefs that drive all undesirable behavior. Most smokers think, oh, it's going to be hard to quit smoking. It's just too hard to resist an urge. So rational emotive school says, really? Says who? What makes it too hard? It may be hard. You may be irritable for a few days at worst, but what would make it too hard? And you've done so many hard things before. So where's it written that everything in life has to be pleasant and perfectly easy anyway? So you'll be able to master and resist any possible urge that may or may not come up. and she didn't even have any. Once I gave her the freedom to experience it.
You made it easy. It was.
What else do you do?
I
in that hour?
regress to the time of their first cigarette, and I have them meet their ideal self at their current age with that. Typically it's a teenage self. So let's say it's a 30-year-old who's quitting, and we regress them to when they started when they were 16. I have, okay, you today as a 30, what would you like to say to that 16-year-old kid who simply wants to smoke to be cool or macho or older or sexy or what have you? 99 times out of 100 they'll say, don't do it. Just don't do it. You don't need it. And I go, great. Keep that information with love, and then come on back to the current time and place, bringing back with you those messages, that freedom, and now you can be cool, you can be sexy, glamorous, macho, all that, without the cigarettes.
What would you say to anyone if they've been smoking for a week, 30 days, or 30 years about using hypnosis to become a non-smoker?
I have become a total believer because it really works, and I was in love with smoking. Yes. And I haven't touched, I couldn't even, the first few weeks, I couldn't even touch a pack of cigarettes. Literally, I could not touch.
Did you see some? Were you in a place where you were tempted?
Yes, Vegas.
Wait, as in Las Vegas?
Yeah.
As in the casinos in Las Vegas?
Yes, and my cousin asked me, and she said, oh, I left my cigarettes there, can you get it for me? And I said, sure. And I kept going like this, and I said, what is wrong with me? I can't touch the pack. And I couldn't touch the pack.
I love it.
That is amazing.
It was amazing. Best thing in the world.
You know, Dr. Irwin, everybody's going to want to know more about your program for hypnotherapy and especially for smoking cessation.
Good.
And you can reach Dr. Nancy Irwin at hmigrads.com. I want to thank my two wonderful guests. I want to thank Shazad for sharing her story.
To be here.
I want to thank Dr. Irwin. But we are going to take a short break. But please stay tuned, because when we come back, we're going to meet another HMI grad and her client too. Stay tuned, because we have a lot more coming up for you on Hypnosis Today.
Thank you.
First web TV talk show that explores the fascinating world of hypnotherapy. My name is Lisa Mackenberg, and I'll be your host, covering a wide variety of subjects to help you understand the power of the subconscious mind and how hypnosis is being used today to help people achieve happiness, success, and prosperity. Please help me welcome my guests.
Thank you.
Shazad, I want to start with you. How long had you been a smoker?
Almost 30 years.
When did you start?
Very young.
How old were you?
She was 2.
Yes, exactly. I was 2. Really.
Won't tell you my age after I read this title. It's called U-Turn, Changing Direction in Midlife, 40 Stories from People Over 40. And she has with her today her very special guest, Shazad, who came to visit Dr. Nancy for smoking cessation. Welcome to Hypnosis Today. It is my pleasure to introduce my brand new guests. My first guest is Dr. Nancy Irwin. Now, Dr. Nancy has her doctorate in psychology. She also is an honors grad of HMI College of Hypnotherapy. She also is the author of one of my favorite books,